Away.
Yes. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for being support in the back. Suzanne va être en arrière pour regarder vos questions sur le chat sur Facebook. Donc, continuez à écrire vos questions. On va répondre aux questions. Nilima va répondre aux questions en anglais. Moi, je vais traduire pour vous après, dans à peu près 45 minutes. Actually, I'm going to put a timer because in 45 minutes we'll answer. I'm saying that we'll answer the questions. So they are welcome. Everybody's welcome to put their questions as we go. So hi, Nilima, and welcome to the festival Pionnières. I am so happy that you said yes. You said yes right away when I asked you, and it's just an honor to interview my mentor, my teacher, and a woman that that got on my path in such with so much synchronicity at the right time. You were there in a pivotal moment in my life, so it's just such an honor to have you here. And just to let people know, like, who is Nilima? Nilima is, you're the founder, the co-founder of a consulting firm that is called Roots and Wing. But before you were in communication and you traveled the world. If I remember, you lived in Europe, if I'm correct.
I lived in London, Singapore, Hong Kong, and as a child, I also lived in Germany.
So you are a world like a traveler, or like you're I call them like I like
world citizen. I prefer world citizen.
You are a world citizen, and you went back to India. It was a call, right? There was a calling for you to go back. Yeah, and well, we'll get back to that, but so you are the founder. You wrote 2 books that are incredible. One of them that really, that's the one who woke me to the work of Shakti leadership, which is the book Shakti Leadership, leveraging leveraging feminine and masculine power in business. And My Cancer is Me, a journey from illness to wholeness. And I'm just saying it because I know it, but maybe I'm making a mistake. I'm not reading anything, but it's just those 2 books are very incredible. And they inspire your work. You founded the program, the Shakti Fellowship at the University of San Diego. And I was part of the cohort in 2018, which was an incredible journey how I got there. So first, I would like you to talk about a little bit what brought you to this work. What is it like? How did you get there? And then I have another question, but maybe I'll put both together.
Go ahead.
The other one is what is Shakti leadership?
Ooh, the second one's a big one. So let's just do this like an opening quick, and then we can go deeper into the subject we chose to focus on today.
Yes.
So I'm an Indian woman, even though I've lived in many parts of the world. I followed the usual father's daughter kind of trajectory, you know, wanting to succeed and do well in academics and extracurricular activities, and wanting to find love and romance and, you know, the one Prince Charming of my life, you know, bought into all those wonderful stories. Bollywood movies are all about romance. So I grew up on all that. And why did I write the book Shakti Leadership is because at the age of 32, I hit my existential crisis. I had become successful very quickly. I ticked all the boxes on the personal and professional front, you know, had the wonderful husband, had the 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl. We had a global lifestyle. I had a wonderful corporate career. And I just found myself feeling hollow and empty at 32, thinking, is this it? Isn't there more to life than meeting all these criteria of external success? And my soul felt still hungry, my spirit was still thirsty. And then 2 years into that search for meaning and purpose, my husband got colon cancer. And then for him to recover through colon cancer, we had to go on a deep search of health and wellness. And then came across this whole mind body medicine and holistic and integrative medicine. And the joyful news is that he healed, and he's a perfectly healthy person today. And he says, cancer healed me. But in the process, my journey to awakening as a woman really began, because as I had to step up to become not just his caregiver emotionally, but I also had to step up to kind of become my own emotional anchor, and hold the family together. And up until then, I'd been very happy walking 2 steps behind my man, as most women do, however emancipated they are. It's like, that's just the social structure we had happily entered into, and it was working for us. If it weren't for the cancer, and if it weren't for my own existential crisis for meaning and purpose, I'm not sure I would have ever kind of started asking what's in the box of this relationship. And it was around this time that I had a dream. Barack Obama had just got elected. You wanted me to tell the dream. So we'd moved back to India. We had set up this clinic to help other cancer patients heal through their trauma. And so I was doing all this cancer work essentially to support my husband's healing. And in this dream, I'm in the White House, and I'm in this very egalitarian cafeteria, and we're sitting at one of the benches to eat, and Obama is also sitting there. And someone conversationally asks me, what do you do? And I'm suddenly tongue-tied thinking, oh my God, the presidential ear is going to be hearing my answer, so I better get my act together and say this right. This was back in 2009, okay? I think he got elected in 2008. No, then this was 2008. So that's a good 12, 13 years ago, this dream. It was a defining dream. So when someone says, what do you do? I cleared my throat and I said, I work for the empowerment of women and to bring the wisdom of India to the world. And even in my dream, I remember being startled and surprised at myself, saying, what? Where did that come from? I didn't mention any of the cancer work, my corporate work, nothing. It was, so where did that come from? And at this point, Obama turns and looks at me and very cynically says to me, oh, you mean you only do lip service? You just talk about it, there's no real action. And then I got extremely vehement, and I looked at him with great courage and energy and said, oh no, I do it by changing one life at a time, one woman at a time. My work is real and my work is transformational, and it matters. I kind of claimed my truth with that. And so when I did that, suddenly the energy changed, and he stopped being cynical, and he almost became emotional with such relief and such gratitude. He was in tears, and he started saying, thank you, almost as if he was waiting for a woman to say she's going to step into her power and do this, right? Which is empower other women and bring the wisdom of India to the world, which later on I discovered was, of course, the idea of Shakti, right? So once he becomes emotional, I end up having to kind of pat him and calm him down and saying it's okay. And then he gets very playful and he says, do you dance? And I said, yes, I do, because I am a dancer. Then I'm wondering if he's a dancer. And then someone plays music, and then we both have this dance, this extremely respectful dance between a sovereign man and a sovereign woman. It's such a beautiful moment. And then his people are coming to remind him he's got busy things to do and leave, and he's pretending he can't hear because he's having such a good time having this dance. And I notice he's a good dancer, so I'm enjoying myself too. And finally, we kind of bow and say thank you, and he leaves. So this was an incredible dream. So when I woke up from it, and I used to dream journal for several years, I used to journal all my dreams. And so this was, on hindsight, a defining moment. It was a herald dream, because sure enough, a couple of years later, my work with cancer slowly started ending. And I found myself moving towards women's leadership and women's empowerment, and then bringing the idea of Shakti to the world.
Mm.
That's when I met Raj. I met Raj around that time, and I wrote to him to say, will you write this book with me? And then Berit Kohler from San Francisco, the publishers, they said yes to publishing it. And it was fantastic. How I would have loved to talk more about Shakti in the book. But, Raj rightfully was saying maybe the world doesn't understand Indian concepts and, Sanskrit words. So, maybe we don't kind of make a big deal of it. It was the publisher who came back and said, can we make the book about Shakti, and can we put Shakti in the title of the book?
Oh.
That's when I said, yes, I hear you, mother, So obviously this book has its own destiny. It has its own trajectory. And Raj and I have just been the vessels, the instruments through which it has come through.
Oh, it's incredible. I love this dream. I love this story so much. That's why I said, please, please, please say that. And I wanted that as your introduction, because we're going to talk about the power of myth, and in a certain way, in a way that our dreams are revealing parts of our imagination, our imaginary world, this myth for us. And I'm sure we could break it down and learn a lot about you if we look at this dream. So yeah, there was another part in the question, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that before we go more into myth, like the Shakti leadership, or maybe just describe, if you prefer, what's more aligned. What is maybe Shakti? Maybe just Shakti, or as you wish. Feel what's aligned with the audience here now.
Sure. So Shakti is the innate power of existence. It's the creative source and force from which everything emerges, and with which everything is preserved and sustained. And the energy that also transforms and keeps the cycles of evolution going. And that entire force is considered the feminine in the yogic Indic tradition, because it is the creative source, like the mother, that gives birth, that brings forth life. So in the Indic tradition, because India has the soul of a devotee, we find ways to personify everything and find the being of every force, and then enter into relationship with it. So Shakti is considered the mother and the divine feminine, from which everything comes forth. And Shiva, whose great festival is in 3 days, is the archetype of the divine masculine, which is that pure presence and pure still witnessing consciousness in ourselves and everywhere, from whom this creative principle of Shakti then emanates and creates all the possibilities within itself. So in a way, Shiva and Shakti are not two separate things. They are one and the same. But Shiva, the divine masculine, is the still witnessing presence, the anchoring energy, that the centripetal force that keeps the whole creative enterprise anchored. Otherwise, it would just fly off into chaos. And Shakti is the beautiful, creative, centrifugal force that just ecstatically, joyfully goes out and creates all the possibilities that are potential in the unity, in the oneness, in the divinity that we are. So that is a more spiritual understanding of what is Shiva and what is Shakti, and they're the two who are one. They're one and the same thing. But in leadership, for us to understand that as leaders, we need to drive change, we need agency, we need power, because leadership and power are deeply interconnected. You cannot do leadership without power. And so I felt we need to write this book on conscious leadership, which is one of the tenets of the conscious capitalism movement that Raj and I are a part of, and for which we primarily wrote the book, but it went, of course, beyond that, movement. Um, how do you bring consciousness to leadership? How do you bring conscious power and conscious agency to leadership? How do you bring it in a way that is whole and balanced, and therefore making sure that it's not just masculine power, but it's also feminine power? It's not just getting a task done, but also taking your relationships along. It's about discernment and focus on one hand, but it's also about empathy and caring and nurturing as you go. So this thing of balanced leadership coming from a profound place of presence. So this is the model of Shakti leadership. We talk about the 5 elements: become present, find your true power. From there, you become psychologically whole. And then you learn how to flex between your different selves. We see the wise, the fool, the tough, the love. And then, the wise is your parent self, fool is your child self, tough is your inner man, love is your inner woman, and how you bring all these together and flex. And how do you then become congruent? How do you find your purpose? And then how do you live your life on purpose? And even your purpose is essentially your Shakti. That is that unique combination of power that you are, the unique combination of power and presence that you are, that you have to manifest in the world. And when you become who you essentially are, you become the leader you're meant to be in the world, right? So that is how you achieve congruence. Now, all this comes together when you learn how to make a heroic journey. And that is the focus of today's conversation. And because when we talk of the hero's journey, we're talking of Joseph Campbell's work, and he was a mythologist. And we also talk of Maureen Murdoch's work, who wrote The Heroine's Journey, A Woman's Quest for Wholeness. And she published that book in 1990. But what an incredible, it is one of those timeless epics, I must say. We owe so much to Maureen Murdoch, as much as we owe to Joseph Campbell, for having mapped how a man makes his journey to individuation and coming into his own personhood, and how a woman makes a journey to come into her wholeness. And these are very mythic journeys, because in order to come into our fullness, we need to make this journey to the underworld, to the unconscious parts of ourselves, to our subconscious selves, to the parts of ourselves that we may not even know exist. And in the process, first of all, you have to activate a very different part of yourself. It's not your logical mind that gets you there. It's your intuitive self. It's your creative mind. It's your right brain. It's your dream world and symbols and art and all story and all these different ways in which that latent archetypal mythic energy inside ourselves, what are called the gods and goddesses inside ourselves, the deities, those transpersonal forces inside and around ourselves, get activated. And they have to get activated if we have to come into our power, because power doesn't exist in the realm of the ordinary. It exists in these mythic realms, in that special underworld that we have to go to activate and reclaim and bring it back. So that's why we focus so much on the heroic journey when we talk of Shakti leadership, because to come into your Shakti, you're going to have to make a heroic journey. Your power will never be given to you on a platter. You're going to have to die in some way by going to the underworld. You're going to have to resurrect and come back from there with the new person you have become.
Yeah, and that's what I was like, Nilima, please talk about the power of myth, because when the first time I heard about you was with Stefan. I was the co-founder of the International Center of Conscious Leadership, and we came across your book, and I was listening to the book in audio, and I had to listen to it sometimes, some of the chapters twice, three times, but every time I would read them, I was like, wow, my whole soul recognized the power of this book. But I didn't know how to apply. And it was like, for me, that was the revelation. I was reading this book and I was like, oh my God, this is really what I need to know. I need to learn. And coming from a spiritual background, my parents being Buddhist, and that book was giving me a language that could go on the mystical world. And that, for me, that is Shakti, that is the feminine energy. There's so little alphabet, there's so little language to describe what it is and how it works. And there's kind of a logic in this mystic. And it's not just like you say, I will take your words, woo woo. The feminine is not woo woo. It's beautifully orchestrated. There's some things that we don't know, but see how the moon, like how the full moon works, like how it influenced the planet, the water, how the seasons work all together. Shakti is intelligent. And so then I said before in the interview with Suzanne, then you came to Montreal on our summit, and our summit was exactly 3 years ago, and that was the beginning of my transformational journey. I took your course. The second day of the summit, you gave a private, like a class, like a immersive workshop, and for an entire day, and I had. You took us in this meditation. We were speaking to our higher self, and my higher self told me it's time for me to leave. And then when I got home that day, the father of my children asked me to leave. Exact same words, and I laughed because it was, wow. There is a recognition. I laughed because I was like, it's like I already knew that it was going to happen. And that from that day on, I was kicked out of my house and I started my heroic journey. And a few months later, I had a message saying that my mission was to work with women on an international level, elevating the immersion, like helping the immersion of feminine energy on the planet. 2 days later, or I'm not even sure if it's 1 day later, but you contacted me on Facebook and you said, Jeanne, I am putting together the Shakti Fellowship program at the University of San Diego, and I would like you to be part of that. And I had no money. I just left. I was kicked out. I had no house. I had no furniture. I had 2 kids to raise, and I also stopped working with Stefan because I was so depressed, and I felt yes. And I went on that journey, and 10 days later, I received money from my income tax, a return, and I was able to pay for my entire trip, and it happened. And then it took me through a journey, and through that journey, there were some oh my God, it was a crazy transformational process. I have to tell, but there are some elements to make that journey safer and to understand the journey. I find to understand the journey, it helps. And that's why I asked you to talk about the myth today, because every time I would go in meditation, I had those myths. Persephone coming in my mind, Durga, she came, and Kali, and I didn't know them, but for some reason, I felt the anger of Kali. I felt the anger of Durga when she's fighting the devil. I forgot,
Mahishasura.
Mahishasura. See, but I felt it. I had so much anger that I could burn the entire planet 3-4 times, and I didn't know what to do with this. But now now my journey, I feel like I've came to this integration bit. Oh my goodness, that was
Fast track.
I was like, my goodness, yeah. But I wanted that, you know, and I think that's one thing that Tim Kelly he says you can actually choose to make some. You don't have to take the fast track.
Yeah.
But I took it anyway. So please, can you talk about those myths, because they carry, and also how you went deep into understanding them. I would like to Persephone, for example, and the others.
So the way to contextualize the 3 or 4 myths from Greek tradition and the Indic tradition that I'm going to share on the call, let me give you the map or the framework. So in the wisdom of the Jungians and the heroic journey experts, there are we journey all the time. Any crisis we change is a call to, we encounter is a call to adventure that puts us through a heroic journey. But broadly, the human life will go through 3 great heroic journeys, right? 3 great cycles of integration and coming into wholeness. The first is, let me speak for a woman, is healing the mother-daughter split, right? So we say becoming your own mother. If you're a young girl and you have to psychologically grow up, you effectively have to learn to parent yourself. Yeah? The first journey you make is to individuate out of your parental hold over you, and you have to become your own mother, to become a whole woman. Right? The second journey you then have to make is to become your own lover, right? Which is not look for love projected on some other partner. If you are, a hetero female, then to look for the man in your life who's going to then come and complete you. But you find that animus inside yourself. So the second healing is, in a way, the inner wedding of the anima, the animus within yourself, the masculine and feminine within yourself. And this is, in a way, how you become psychologically whole. And so the first journey is the journey for adventure, because meeting your shadow and, facing down all those fears, that is what it means to become your own mother. The second journey is the journey to romance, right? Finding love and coming of age sexually. And then it doesn't end there, even though Jung has said that, the ego shadow integration, the parent child integration is the apprentice piece. And then the anima animus integration is the masterpiece. There is actually a third one beyond that. And this comes more from the Eastern traditions and certainly the Indic tradition. This thing of the quest for enlightenment, that the other 2 selves, so the first 2 selves is the mother-daughter that we heal. The second 2 selves that the split is healed is the inner man, inner woman. But the third, the great prize, is our human self and our divine self. And learning how to put those back together and heal that split is that great quest for enlightenment. So broadly, there are 3 journeys: the quest for adventure, the quest for romance, and the quest for enlightenment. And there are 3 different stories I'm going to share with you, which explain it so beautifully that this is why we say myth and mythic stories can be medicine. So instead of explaining to you in a dry, logical way, by the telling of the story, a listener is able to activate these god archetypes as latent forces in their own psyche, their own soma. They get activated. And as you said, when you listen to the book Shakti Leadership, something deep inside you knew this to be true. And that is the power of myth, right? That something deeply mythic exists beyond time and space, and it's a truth beyond the ordinary truth. It's not a falsehood. It's a deeper truth, actually, right? So let me tell you the story, which contains these archetypes of these gods and goddesses. And you will find how you become the person who makes that journey. So the journey to becoming your own mother, healing the mother-daughter split, is the story of Persephone, right? So she was this mother's daughter. She was the daughter of Demeter, and she was mollycoddled completely, and mother protected her all the time and didn't want to lose her to anybody. But the truth is, the destiny of a girl is to grow up and become a full-blown sexually awakened woman and procreate, and she can't be kept a puella, a little girl, eternally. And so Zeus, the father, has a pact with his brother Hades, who is the god of the underworld, to say, you can have Persephone. You need a wife. Every god needs a wife. So you can have Persephone. So no one checked with Demeter about this, the mother. And Demeter is the goddess of fertility and grain, and she's the archetypal mother, right? So she has to function for the world to get its food supply and so on. So no one should be making her angry, but therefore no one, Zeus didn't want to even tell her that he had done this little pact with Hades. So one day Persephone is wandering around in her beautiful La La Land, this wonderful garden where everything's taken care of. But life will not let you stay there. She finds this most beautiful narcissus flower, and she's been forbidden to go in that direction, but still she goes, and she looks to smell that flower. And just as she does that, the ground opens up, and Hades comes forth in his golden chariot with these 4 large stallion horses, and he abducts her, and she's screaming. She's horrified at this incredible surge of darkness that's come out of from literally under the ground. And he captures her, and he takes her back, and the ground closes. And all her friends, they're running around saying, oh my God, what happened? And there are beautiful statues, if you go to Rome and Greece, of the abduction of Persephone, and she's screaming and looking back while this big Hades has got her over his shoulder and taking her away. And as a young woman, you will deeply identify with that visceral fear every young girl has of being abducted, of being raped, of being violated. And that is what happens with her. He takes her underground and he rapes her, and he forcibly keeps her there as his wife. And so Demeter is distraught. She searches for her daughter everywhere, 9 days and 9 nights. And so finally she just gets so angry. I think someone tells her that Zeus had agreed to this. She gets so mad. She says, I'm going to just sit and stop functioning. And when I stop functioning, there will be no food, there'll be no grain. And so the gods will not get their offerings, and the humanity will starve. So once this starts happening, everyone goes rushing to Zeus and say, you better do something. So finally they agree that Hermes has to be sent down to the underworld and to be told to bring Persephone back, because the world is not functioning without Demeter. And Demeter wants to be reunited with her daughter. Right? So when Hermes comes, Hades hears this, and he quickly tells Persephone, here, eat some pomegranate seeds. And by this time, there has become some sort of a relationship that has developed, even though she is sitting there waiting to go back and meet her mother. A part of her is perhaps beginning to grow up, right? And learning to have a relationship with the masculine. So she does eat those pomegranate seeds. And when she comes back to Demeter, the first thing Demeter asks her, I hope you didn't eat anything in the underworld. And Persephone says, actually, I did. I ate some pomegranate seeds. She says, oh no, that means you can't now ever fully belong to me and belong to our world. A part of you now has to always also belong to that world, because you have partaken of it. So this is how the story goes, that she gets to spend 2/3 of her time with the mother, Demeter, and 1/3 of her time with Hades. And this was how Kore, the young girl Persephone, becomes the queen of both worlds, the underworld and the world above. And every time so she comes back, and now she takes her rightful place next to Hades as the queen of the underworld. This is no longer this little girl. Now that in a way she has grown up, she has become her own mother. So when Demeter and Persephone get reunited in this new way that shares it with the masculine, right? Now she has come of age as a woman. And why is a Demeter woman why is a Persephone woman who has come of age such a potent and powerful woman? It's because a woman knows those dark sides because she has been there. And then she makes an excellent therapist, she makes an excellent healer, she makes a wonderful friend. She's able to take other people and guide them as and when they enter these dark, difficult places of the psyche or get depressed, because she has made that journey to the underworld and resurrected. She knows now how to be her own mother, how to caretake herself, how to protect herself, right? So this is the first story of becoming your own mother, right? The healing that mother-daughter split. This, do you want to comment on that? I can't hear you.
I put myself on mute. I'm trying to fight the sun. The light wants to come on my face, and I'm trying to put the curtain, so I closed the microphone. But it's interesting because when you talk about the pomegranate and eating those seeds, I also see the apple when, like, in the Garden of Eden, and where she's eating the apple of knowledge, and then she falls. In a way, that's also falling.
Yes.
That's part of this dimension. Once, like, we've decided to be in this dimension, and by eating, so there's some elements that I see in the stories that are also in that story.
That's a very, very beautiful connection you just made, Jeanne. And the truth is, and this comes from the Indic yogic tradition, that the fire ceremony is central to spiritual work because we have a covenant with the fire of life. We have to give and take from the fire of life. We have to be engaged with the fire of life. We can't stay out of it. Being human demands that we partake of all the pleasure and the pain of what it means to be alive and be human. We have to have this exchange with all the archetypal realms, not just one and deny the other, right? So we have no choice but to go into the unconscious and the subconscious, what's called the fall from the light. We have no choice to go into the dark if we have to become fully human. Mm-hmm. And when you go into the dark, you discover that there is enchantment. And my mentor who recently passed away, Father Lancy Pereira, his wonderful book is called The Enchanted Darkness, saying, it's not just about the light. Everything is divine. So therefore, so is the dark. And the dark is just light that hasn't yet emerged into our awareness. And when we can go into the dark, we can find these hidden potentialities and we can awaken them, and we bring them back into our light and integrate them. And in the process, we grow and evolve into more of who we can be and are.
Very, very, very powerful. And that myth and what you're talking is so deep. So I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to let you go into the other mythology, because they all come together and they hit different parts of our psyche to help us to reconnect with wholeness. And I'm just going to say one thing, because I find that my journey, coming from a spiritual family, I was like a bit like Persephone, like really high up. I had beautiful concepts. Oh my God, like I could just recite those mantras, those things, those wisdom. Oh, you're so wise. But that was not embodied. It was just, and going in the darkness definitely helped me become a better coach, a better leader, a better mother, a better friend, like you said. So yeah.
It grounds you, right? Going into the underworld grounds you. It gives you the roots.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're a tree without roots.
Yes.
And this thing about eating, whether it is the pomegranate or the apple, it's about digesting. And only when we ingest and digest these forces can we integrate them, right? Otherwise, they only remain above the throat.
And I would like to say, like, more often in some religion, we look at like the Virgin Mary, she's so pure. And it's just like, and it's like, oh my God, like, I realized that coming to the planet, being birth, is dirty process. Like, if you are a mother, you know that the baby doesn't come on out clean. It's like blood and poop, and there's like, that's the process of coming. It's like the initiation is like, it's not as perfect and pure. It is bloody, and it's, like, coming on this planet is also, there's rotting energy and very slow energy. It's very slow. So I think it's hard for the soul. There is already there like a big initiation just to come on earth. It's coming in contact with the messiness, like in the book, the woman who runs with the wolf. Like, when you reconnect with the feminine, you reconnect with this messiness also. It's not as organized and as
it's matter. It's the earth. It's about digging your hands into soil, and right. I mean, spirit is masculine and body is feminine, right? Because it's here to give birth. And so spirit is heaven and body is earth. And so the earth is, try and dig or just pick up a stone that's been lying on the mud for a long time, and underneath it's crawling with creepy crawlies and earthworms and all kinds of stuff happening under there that makes you go, like, but that is the process of life. That is the regenerative energy and process that makes sure life circulates and, decays so that new things can come.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It is our preference for all that which is clean and light, and our dislike of what feels messy and smelly and repulsive that creates the separation.
Yes.
When
yes.
actually reality is a continuum, right? It's a spectrum, and there is no separation. It is just two ends of things. But we tend to say, no, we only want this and we don't want that. And that's where all the problems begin.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of see now as permaculture. Like when the monoculture came in, it killed the earth, and now we can see that this type of culture turned the land into a desert. Like, there's some beautiful movies about permaculture where they turn the soil that is this turned into sand back into a living land, and that you need those microorganisms. You need this filth in a way, where this, like, things that we don't like, they have a role. They have a role.
We need to get over our dislike and preference and aversion, and we need to learn to co-hold these two polarities as part of the same thing, two faces of the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? So that brings me nicely to the second journey and the story and the medicine myth. It's the story of Psyche and Eros, Psyche and Amor, also from Greece. And it really came alive for me when we went to Greece, to Delphi 2 or 3 years ago. And Greece is going through this very bad economic crisis, and so you could actually feel the barrenness and like a desertification of that incredible country. You could feel it. You could feel the loss of the juice of life. And I was trying to deeply understand, here is a land with so much mythology in its culture, and why does it feel dry and barren? Why does it feel like a wasteland? And then I realized the Western civilization has been led by the Greek thought, And the Greek thought has essentially focused on the mind and the gods of the Olympian world, and has kind of cut itself off from all that which is heart and soul and body and female, right? The whole thing of overvaluing the mind and pretending all the messy other stuff doesn't exist. Um, that the whole age of mind is very much an outgrowth of that civilization. And it has paid a price in the process. And this is the story of Psyche and Eros that I feel Greece and perhaps Western civilization can reconnect with to heal the split of their body and mind, the body and soul, okay, which will revitalize and bring the juice back to all this incredible mental achievement and complete all that mental achievement. The story goes, Psyche is this beautiful maiden, and she's so beautiful that everyone starts admiring her and almost praying to her. And as a result, Aphrodite doesn't get her offerings, and she gets very angry and tells her immature young son Eros, go out there and use your arrow in such a way that a really vile man falls in love with her, or she with him, and then like, just get her out of my way. She doesn't, how can she compete with me? How dare she? So when Eros goes, he falls in love with her because he sees Psyche is so beautiful. So he doesn't want to anger his mom. He takes Psyche away and he keeps her in this secret hideout, and it's this gorgeous heavenly kind of place. And he comes to her in the nights and makes love to her, and she's in this blissed out place. And then, but he never lets her see who he is, because that's the secret. Otherwise, mom will get angry. And one day Psyche's sisters want to visit her, and because they're so thinking, are you okay? Have you been married to a monster? Because that was the prophecy, that she'll be married to an inhuman person. So everyone assumed it would be a monster, not realizing that it would be a god, So Psyche asks Eros, I'd love to see my sister. So he says, but you can't reveal the secret. So she says, I won't. But when she meets her sisters, sister says, who are you married to? Is he a monster? Is he a monster? She says, no, actually not. You mean you don't know the face of your husband? How can you not? You must find out. And, go in the night with a lamp and look at him, and take a knife with you. And if he is a monster, kill him, right? So she goes that night and she brings the lamp. And the lamp is again a woman finding her discernment, beginning to examine the content of a romantic relationship. Because otherwise, we women are so unconscious. We're so taken away by the romance of Eros, that whole erotic energy that steps in and gets awakened in us in a romance, that we don't really examine and use our discernment, our logos, to look at what's really in that relationship. So when she grows up sufficiently to go there with the lamp, a bit of that lamp falls on him, on his shoulder, and that heat of the wax or oil wakes him up. And she's got this knife in her hand because she's so surprised. She had thought she's going to see a monster, and she would have used her discernment and her boundaries to kind of, call it and kill it and do what needed to be done to protect herself. But she discovers, oh my God, I'm married to the god of love himself. But when he wakes up, he is angry with her because she has disobeyed him. So this is the immature masculine, and he abandons her and he goes away. And she is pregnant, and she is so sad, so distraught. She wants her husband back. So she goes to Aphrodite and she pleads, please give me back my husband. Aphrodite gives her 4 tasks, saying, if you can meet all of them, you're worthy of having Eros as a husband. Now, what's interesting is each of these 4 tasks of Psyche, and go ahead and read that in detail. Each of these 4 tasks are ways in which Psyche has to find her animus, which means find her inner masculine and not remain like this incomplete woman. She has to find that inner man first in order to find the love of her life outside of herself. She has to complete herself psychologically before she's worthy of real love in her life. So the 4 tasks, it's one helps her become more discerning. One helps her become clever and not foolhardy. One helps her find a higher perspective and look at things from a bigger, wider place. And the last one, very beautiful, is about learning to say no and not getting waylaid by some pathetic creatures who are saying, please help me, and then kind of abusing her compassion, right? So learning how to say no and conserving her beautiful soul force. And this wonderful set of tasks effectively activates her own animus, her own masculine, and now she's come of age. She's not just become her own mother, now she's become her own lover. So when she goes to Aphrodite, interestingly, one cute little thing happens here. Her last task was to bring an ointment from Persephone, from the underworld, but not to open that box. But being a curious woman, she was told not to open the box, so of course she opens the box. And what comes out is something so foul-smelling that she goes into a swoon of death. And so, oh my God, she went through all this only to die again. But this is because her eros, which is the animus, also now has to move to its next level and not remain immature. She, having completed her task, eros now has become a braver, stronger, mature man. And he comes and he saves her, and he goes to the gods in front of all the Olympians. He says, she may be a mortal, but I love her. She's pregnant with our child, and this is going to be my wife. And when he claims his voice and his love in front of all the gods and the pantheon, everyone understands this is meant to be. They have earned it. And so the gods agree not just to make her immortal, so Psyche, the soul, becomes an immortal archetype. And the child they have, this is the most beautiful, the child they have is called delight or joy, right? It's Ananda. The ultimate thing we yearn for is when our vitality, our erotic, the id force in us, which is eros, and our soul force, which is this wonderful self that is always moving towards the higher divinity. When these two come together, we have the joy of body and spirit, the ultimate joy in its wholeness, the delight of everything becomes available to us, right? So that is, we become the child of Eros and Psyche when we learn to achieve that inner wedding of a mature feminine and a mature masculine within ourselves.
Oh, wow. I love this one. I had goosebumps. It went deep, deep. And before you go into the last one, because we have 5-6 minutes left, but there's one question about what you just shared. Can you repeat the 4 tasks that she had to do to get that animal?
I can't repeat them. That'll take me forever, Jeanne.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, Google it. All right, so let's finish with the last one.
Maybe we get into it in Q&A if we have time for Q&A. Do we have time for?
Well, like there's no people. I think they're so seem to be very, very happy about what you share, and I think they're just absorbing. Like you're just giving so much. Yeah, let's finish.
Let me finish the 3rd cycle. So here you've done your healing the mother-daughter split with the Demeter Persephone story. You have found your inner beloved with the Eros and Psyche story. And the 3rd, which is the quest for enlightenment, which is healing the human woman with the divine feminine, right? Becoming enlightened with the divine feminine. And for this, I'd like to talk about the story of Durga, right? So Durga in the Indic tradition was this great divine sovereign goddess that came in response to this very, very terrible demon called Mahishasura, who had taken a boon from Brahma that no man or no god can kill me. And he had done such deep penance that Brahma had to give him that boon. And so Mahishasura, which basically means the demon of lust, is now going around and sitting in the throne of Indra and has taken over all the worlds and is destroying everything. And the whole creation is very sad and traumatized. And so the gods have to pray to the great mother herself. And so when she comes, she is Durga, and all the gods give her, Shiva gives his trident, and everyone gives her their unique powers. and kind of ornaments her with also. She's this total, complete being of essentially the great mother herself, the non-dual mother herself, but she carries all the arms and ammunition and the tools of all the lesser gods as well. Okay, and so that's how she goes, and for 9 days and 9 nights, there's something about this 9 days and 9 nights where she fights this demon, and finally she slays him. Now, when one of the things is when she is trying to slay him, he's bringing more demons, and one of them is Rakta Bija. Rakta Bija is this demon that when you kill him, his every drop of blood that falls on the ground becomes yet another demon. So there's no way the goddess is able to destroy him because he just keeps sprouting, multiplying. So therefore, out of her forehead, Durga's, her incredible anger, saying, how can such falsehood exist? Out of her incredible anger emerges Kali. So Kali is this great dark aspect of the Divine Mother who will brook no falsehood. But she is so angry and so destructive that whatever she sees in her path, she has to then destroy, saying, all this is worthless, good, bad, doesn't matter to me, everything annihilate, go back to zero, right? I mean, that's the kind of power of a Kali. So the way Kali, she has a bowl, and every time the drop is going to fall of blood, she catches it and she drinks it. And therefore, she's always shown with this big red tongue. And so even after Mahishasur is vanquished, Kali is still going around angry, right? So she's going to end up destroying the world with her anger. So everyone goes to Shiva, who is the ultimate consort of all the goddesses, like the Divine Mother's consort is Shiva. So Shiva is the only masculine archetype that has the ability to stand there and contain the feminine in her full force. So he goes and lies down like a corpse, and she ends up standing on him by mistake as she's rampaging. And the minute her foot touches his chest, her tongue comes out again, because this time it's like, oops, what have I done? You know, I'm standing on my own consort. I'm standing on my own love. I'm standing on my own half and my own being. And that is, and that being is pure consciousness, right? So when that masculine has completely surrendered in pure consciousness to that feminine force, that feminine force knows how to also then calm down and return to a way that becomes Gauri. Okay, so Kali means black one, Gauri means the light one. So when she becomes Gauri, she becomes Parvati, the yogini, who has the ability to take her rightful place next to Shiva, and both of them together, Shiva, Parvati, Shiva and Gauri, who are the, in a way, the father and mother of the holy family, right? So Ganesha is the child and Kartikeya. So between them, they are also that holy family that's very complete, the wise fool of tough love. So a woman has to find her Durga, and she has to have the ability to bring on her Kali when needed and to bring on her Gauri when needed. So she can be in a family and hold her love and her children together, and she can also go out and destroy falsehood and brook none of it, right? So that ability to be Durga, who is sovereign in her own feminine divinity, is that state of the enlightened feminine that a woman can reach for after she has integrated her mother, daughter, and her lover, right? It's about now becoming the Shakti in the world that's needed. You're muted. Jeanne, you're muted.
Thank you. I've said this. Suzanne has to leave. She's about to prepare the other call with the next presenter. But I was saying how I love those 3 stories. They are very very symbolic, and it's funny. Do you know why? Why, for a reason, why? How do you say? because every time I went into meditation, they would come, like even things that I didn't know about those stories, like feelings. Why does mythology is part of the language of femininity, and how does it work?
I think the masculine is the mind and the feminine is the body. And mind is logos and body is mythos, right? So these archetypal forces of eros and thanatos, mythos, all this exists very much in our somatic self, which is our chthonic, our body self, right? And logos is this higher mind and moves up into higher spirit. So mythology and body and forces that move the body and the emotions and the feelings, all that is our feminine side. And we've been given stewardship of that as women.
Yeah, I really like when one day you said understanding myth is part of it's the language, it's the part of the alphabet. And I love how you say that often. There's an alphabet for the feminine language that is unique, and archetypal, understanding archetypal language and mythology, and it helps us heal, reconciliate.
We have to learn the language of the archetypes if we have to really become masters of ourselves, because these forces are from the unconscious and they will drive us. And if we're looking to become awakened, enlightened beings and have any level of mastery over ourselves, we need to learn the language of archetypes. We need to learn how to communicate with archetypes inside us and around us. We need to know the ABC of archetypes. You know, what is this world? And much of what I've told you today, you'll be surprised how few people in the world know this, as compared to knowing maths and chemistry and physics. And, you know, we're simply not taught this subject. And we are not taught the basic ABC of this subject. And that is why I'm hoping in today's call, you would have learned some basics of the language of archetypes, the subject of archetypes. You've learned some basic ABC of it.
Thank you, Nilima. Definitely I did, even if I did your program for 9 months. I'm still learning. I think I read your book. I've taught your book. I've had circles talking about your book. And I'm still learning through your share today. So thank you for that. Would you recommend some books to read? Of course, I recommend everybody to read Shakti Leadership and My Cancer Is Me, but for archetypal.
Sure. I have some of my favorite ones. So one is Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton. Another one is Goddesses in Every Woman by Jean Shinoda Bolen. Then The Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdoch. Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Descent to the Goddess by Sylvia Brinton Pereira. These would be some incredible ones to get started on.
Amazing, I can't wait. And you have a mission, and your mission, it's to please talk about your 1,000 Shakti.
To create 100,000 women change makers, Shakti leaders by 2030. And women from around the world who will then be connected to each other to collaborate and create peace, prosperity, and beauty through the exchange of multiple forms of capital. So these are social impact, cultural entrepreneurs who will create the new economies. And effectively, that's what the world needs right now. And it'll happen through these women who are awakened from the inside out, stepped in, stepped up, and stepped out to be the change and make it happen, make the SDGs happen by 2030. So it's a planetary imperative that women rise at this time on behalf of everybody, all genders. And that's how the Shakti mission wants to play its part.
And how can people join that movement?
stay in touch with shaktileadership.com, the website. You will see there is a section there called the Shakti Fellowship, and just keep in touch with that page. Subscribe to our newsletter. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn. So just follow us, and you can even write to me directly, Nilima at shaktileadership.com, and we'll put you on the list if you want. Many ways to follow. Jeanne, our Udemy course is fully updated, upgraded, and it's ready to be launched this month. Okay. And that will become one of the simplest, most accessible ways. I've truly wanted to create it to make it affordable to everybody, because how are we going to get to 100,000 Shakti leaders? So this Udemy course is a beautifully designed, curated course now. And just check us out on Udemy, shaktileadership.com. In the next, give us 2 to 3 weeks, and it shall be up there.
Oh, amazing. Incredible. So happy. So yes, we'll put all the information for people to reach you near the video. And thank you today. Thank you for being here today, for your wisdom and being part of this vortex of love on International Women's Day. This is an honor to have you here today. Thank you.
And thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. It's been an utter pleasure. I'm so glad. I love talking about myth. So thank you for the opportunity to do that today.
Yeah, and it felt such a, that's what I was like, oh, Nilima, what she had, and I'm listening to the spirit now I listen because of Shakti. I know how to discern when spirit is talking and hear the alignment. And I'm like, oh, Nilima, we got to talk about this, because I hear you talk about Shakti leadership and stuff like that, but myth, you're so good in it. And it's a very, it's important part to become a conscious leader. And I want to say that I have my beautiful medal today. Look at that, the Shakti symbol.
I'm so glad you wore it today. The only last piece is to say that the stories are fantastic to activate these energies, but you need some sort of a grounding practice to be able to work with these archetypes. So, find your own presence practice and find your own Shakti practices to learn how to work with these archetypes and not let them overpower you. They have to move through you and individuate you along the way.
Yeah, like you have told me this in the past, Jeanne, you have too much Shakti, you need more Shiva. I was like, because Shakti can be very chaotic, and thank you for that when you named it at a point where I was too much in my Shakti and I needed the practice. So thank you for that. All right, so we'll move to the next interview, but it was really an honor, and people can write still their comments down there, and if they have questions, I will forward them to Nilima. So, okay.
A wonderful, wonderful pioneering summit. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Have a wonderful. You're gonna go to bed soon, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.